Imagine an hourglass, like a really, really big hourglass.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. So the top glass is a $2 billion floating metropolis, like physically larger than the Empire State Building.
Which is just a staggering piece of engineering on its own.
It really is. And then the bottom glass of this hourglass is the entire downtown metro area of Miami.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the sand inside that hourglass, it's 63,000 tourists.
Mm.
And they are all dragging, those oversized roller suitcases, all trying to squeeze through this tiny, incredible narrow pinch in the middle before a 2 o'clock deadline.
That sounds like an absolute urban planning nightmare.
It does. Oh, and I forgot to mention, right at that tiny pinch, someone has decided to throw a massive World Cup soccer festival.
Oh, you have got to be kidding me.
I'm not. But the crazy thing is, it's not a nightmare. It's just a Saturday in modern maritime travel.
That is just wild to think about.
Right. Welcome to today's deep dive. I am so glad you're joining us today because we are looking at the extreme, almost jarring edges of modern ocean travel. Okay, let's unpack this because the evolution of how we cross the oceans has completely fractured.
It really has. It's almost a tale of two completely different industries at this point.
Exactly. On one end of the spectrum, we have engineered ships so massively complex that they are literally breaking the infrastructure of the cities trying to host them.
Right. The ports just physically cannot handle the sheer volume.
Yeah. And then on the exact opposite end, there is this sudden powerful resurgence of people paying top dollar to cross the Atlantic on a vessel that honors an 1840s mail route.
It is a brilliant duality to explore, honestly, because we aren't just talking about boats today. We are talking about the physical limits of coastal infrastructure, the mind-bending realities of megaship engineering, and the very real psychological question of what you, as a modern traveler, actually want when you decide to leave solid ground.
I love that. Let's start right inside that hourglass, because before you can enjoy the ocean, you have to physically get on the ship.
Which is easier said than done these days.
Seriously, boarding these modern floating cities is becoming an increasingly staggering logistical feat. We're looking at a traffic advisory that Miami had to issue for Saturday, June 13.
And this wasn't just for a minor fender bender, right?
No, not at all. 8 of the largest passenger vessels on Earth converged on PortMiami simultaneously. Let me just read this list so you can picture the sheer displacement of the water we are talking about.
Go for it.
I've got it right here. It was Icon of the Seas, MSC World America, Freedom of the Seas, Seven Seas Mariner, Resilient Lady, Norwegian Luna, Carnival Sunrise, and Carnival Magic.
Just hearing that list, I mean, the raw numbers associated with that specific Saturday push the absolute boundaries of what a port can handle.
Absolutely.
Officials estimated that 63,000 cruise passengers were moving through the port corridor in a window of just a few hours.
Which is a number that is genuinely hard to conceptualize.
It is. To put that into perspective, PortMiami handled over 8,564,225 cruise passengers in the 2025 fiscal year.
Okay, wow. So they're used to high volume.
Exactly. But dealing with 63,000 people on a single morning, all concentrated around one primary access bridge, is a totally different beast.
I was trying to wrap my head around that 63,000 number. And for you listening, let's go back to that hourglass metaphor. Because it's not just 63,000 people casually strolling through a park.
Right. They have luggage, they have families, they are trying to find their specific terminal.
Exactly. It's essentially an evacuation and an immediate repopulation of a mid-sized town. But here is the mechanism that makes it so brutal. Everyone is moving through one single boulevard, Port Boulevard.
Which is already a notorious bottleneck.
Yes. And you're doing this while trying to navigate around ongoing terminal construction, which is already choking off lanes and parking garages.
And we have to expand that metaphor even further because that 63,000 figure only accounts for the ticketed human beings.
Oh, the crew.
Yeah, it completely ignores the hidden logistics of turning around a megaship. You have thousands of crew members ending and beginning contract.
Which means more buses, more taxis.
Exactly. You have an armada of sanitation trucks, and most importantly, you have the massive fleet of ship provisioning 18-wheelers.
Because they have to feed all those people.
Right. These ships have to load enough food, water, and supplies to sustain a small city for a week at sea. The actual vehicle load funneling onto that single bridge is immense.
Right. And as if evacuating a town over a single bridge surrounded by semi-trucks wasn't enough, Miami threw a massive wrench into the gears.
The soccer festival.
Yes. The free Miami FIFA Fan Festival at Bayfront Park, which runs through July 5, opened its gates on that exact same day.
And location is everything here.
It is. If you look at a map, Bayfront Park sits right near the west end of Court Boulevard. It is literally at the neck of the hourglass.
Oh, that is just horrible planning.
Truly, so you have a massive international soccer event pulling local downtown traffic, ride shares, and pedestrians right into the exact same road network used by the cruise passengers.
What's fascinating here is the specific window of time that law enforcement flagged as the extreme danger zone.
The 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. block. Right?
Exactly. Between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., if we look at the mechanics of maritime logistics, this 4-hour block is the crucible.
Because everyone is either leaving or arriving.
Yes, it is the exact period when disembarkation, the thousands of people trying to leave the port to catch morning flights, violently overlaps with embarkation, which is the new wave of people arriving early to start their vacation.
And because the Fan Festival gates were opening right in the middle of this, the pressure on the grid was exponential.
And this brings up a very harsh, unbending law of the sea that travelers often learn the hard way.
Yeah, and we have to emphasize this for everyone listening. The ship does not care about your traffic jam.
Precisely. A modern cruise ship is a tightly wound economic engine. They operate on incredibly strict schedules.
Because they have to, right? The fees are enormous.
Yes, they are governed by multi-million-dollar port berthing fees, shifting tidal charts, and very specific fuel efficiency targets for the next leg of the journey.
So they literally cannot wait for you.
They won't. If you are sitting in an Uber, gridlocked, next to a FIFA fan zone on Port Boulevard at 3:30 p.m., that ship will drop its mooring lines and leave without you.
That is heartbreaking. But it happens all the time.
And cruise lines rarely, if ever, offer compensation when you miss a sailing due to local roadway congestion. The burden of navigating the infrastructure failure is entirely on the passenger.
Which really makes you pause and ask the question. For you listening right now, is the extreme stress of navigating that downtown Miami gridlock with the clock ticking and the very real threat of your ship leaving you behind worth a vacation that's waiting on the other side?
Well, the market data says yes. Millions of people are making that exact calculation every year.
Because the ships are just that incredible.
Exactly. Because what is waiting for them on the other side of those terminal doors is an engineering marvel that defies logic.
Which is the perfect transition. Because that 63,000-person traffic jam in Miami doesn't just happen by accident.
No, it's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. Yeah. It is being actively engineered right now in a shipyard in France. The traffic is a direct, unavoidable symptom of the ships themselves evolving.
This is the Saint-Nazaire project.
Yes. On June 11, in Saint-Nazaire, France, Royal Caribbean and the shipbuilder Chantiers de l'Atlantique officially held a keel-laying ceremony and began block assembly on the 7th Oasis-class ship.
And for now, we just know it by a code name, right?
Yeah, currently it's just going by its shipyard identifier, B-35.
And B-35 is going to be an absolute leviathan. This new vessel is slated to debut in 2028 with a gross tonnage of 236,900.
Now, we need to pause here because gross tonnage is a term that gets thrown around a lot, but it is deeply misunderstood.
It really is. It's one of those industry terms that completely confuses the general public.
Yeah, I always assumed it meant how much the ship physically weighs on a scale, like the actual weight of the steel and everything.
Most people do. But gross tonnage actually has nothing to do with weight. It is a measurement of internal volume.
Wait, volume? Like space?
Exactly. 1 gross ton equals 100 cubic feet of enclosed space.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
So when we say B-35 is 236,900 gross tons, we are talking about an incomprehensible amount of internal monetizable volume.
That is staggering.
And to understand how we got here, we have to look back to 2009 when the first ship of this class, the Oasis of the Seas, debuted. It fundamentally rewrote the rules of naval architecture.
Right, because before Oasis, cruise ships were basically just giant floating hotels.
Very traditional layouts.
Yeah, just long hallways, rooms on the left, rooms on the right. If your room faced the outside, you had a balcony and paid a premium. If your room faced the inside hallway, you had a dark closet and paid a discount.
Exactly. The financial bottleneck of traditional ship design was that you could only sell so many premium ocean view balconies. You're limited by the perimeter of the hull.
Right.
The Oasis-class solved this by literally splitting the ship open down the middle. They carved out the center, creating a massive open-air canyon running down the spine of the vessel.
Creating those neighborhood spaces the company is famous for.
Yes. Suddenly, they had spaces like Central Park, which features thousands of actual living plants and trees, the boardwalk, and the Royal Promenade.
Which is just crazy to think about on a boat.
It is. But the economic genius of this engineering feat is that it created inward-facing balconies.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right.
Mm.
Now, thousands of interior cabins that used to be dark boxes have premium balconies overlooking a lush park or a high-diving aquatheater. They figured out how to monetize the inside of the ship just as highly as the outside.
Okay, that is economically brilliant, but I have to push back here a little bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
As a traveler, it feels a little dystopian because we are looking at ships designed to hold between 6,300 and 6,800 passengers.
That's a massive population.
It is, and just a day prior to this keel-laying in France, Royal Caribbean took delivery of Legend of the Seas from the Meyer Turku shipyard in Finland, which is part of their even newer, larger Icon class.
Right, they just keep pushing the envelope.
Exactly. Plus, you have Utopia of the Seas, the most recent Oasis-class ship, and it's being pivoted to run short 3- and 4-night weekend bursts.
Which turns over that massive population twice a week.
Right. So my question is, with ships getting this massive and turning entirely inward to focus on parks and malls, is the ocean itself just becoming an afterthought?
That's a really interesting point.
Because it feels like you're not going to see. You're just going to a floating theme park that happens to be wet on the outside.
It is a valid critique, and honestly, from an engineering standpoint, you aren't wrong. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the modern cruise industry has realized that the ocean can be unpredictable, occasionally stormy, and for some people, boring to look at for 7 days.
Yeah, not everyone wants to just stare at waves.
Exactly. So they engineered the ultimate distraction. The ocean used to be the magnificent, terrifying obstacle you had to cross. Now it is merely the very large, very blue moat surrounding your resort.
But if it's just a resort with a moat, why put it on a boat at all? Why not just build this massive Central Park complex in Orlando or Vegas?
Because a resort in Vegas can't relocate when a hurricane approaches, or when the economic market shifts to a different continent.
Oh, that's a good point. The mobility is a massive financial asset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also doesn't benefit from the incredibly favorable international maritime tax laws and labor regulations that these floating resorts operate under.
Right, the economics are totally different on the water.
But what I find truly fascinating is the psychological paradox of it all. As these ships become less and less about the actual sea, the industry violently clings to its maritime heritage.
Oh, right, the coin ceremony. I saw
Yeah.
this in the notes.
Yes. During the start of the block assembly, and by the way, block assembly means they aren't just welding flat plates of steel.
Right, it's not like building a car from scratch.
No, they are building massive multi-story chunks of the ship that are fully outfitted with plumbing and electrical wiring, and then dropping them into place like gigantic logo bricks.
Which is just incredible to visualize.
But right before they dropped that first massive keel block into the dry dock, they placed newly minted euro and dollar coins beneath it.
It's an ancient seafaring tradition to bring luck to the vessel and the crew, right?
Exactly. So you have a 236,900 gross ton hyperstructure being built with laser-guided welding robots designed so passengers can drink at robot-tended bars and ride zip lines.
But its very foundation is anchored by a superstition dating back to the Roman Empire.
It is an incredible contradiction.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it perfectly explains segment 1 of our deep dive. The ship is the destination now.
Completely.
You build a floating city so incredible that 6,800 people desperately want to get inside it. But that directly creates the Miami bottleneck because you still have to funnel the population of a small town through a single set of terminal doors.
And that infrastructure pressure is exactly why a certain segment of travelers is starting to look for an exit strategy.
Which brings us to our final topic. If the Oasis-class represents the high-octane, inward-facing theme park approach to modern travel, there is a completely different philosophy gaining serious momentum.
A completely different way of thinking about the ocean.
Yeah, a philosophy where the journey itself is the only destination that matters.
A return to the absolute unforgiving fundamentals of ocean travel.
Exactly. Cunard has just announced a newly opened sweepstakes, and they are taking entries all the way through July 34, 2026.
So people have plenty of time to enter.
They do. And the prize package is incredibly comprehensive. It covers flights, hotel accommodations in Southampton, England, and passage for 2 guests on their flagship vessel, the Queen Mary 2.
And this isn't just a random Caribbean getaway.
No, not at all.
This sweepstakes is celebrating a massive historical milestone. The prize is specifically for the Queen Mary 2's 450th Transatlantic crossing.
Wow. 450 times.
Yes. That voyage will sail from Southampton to New York between November 10 and November 17th, 2026.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If you contrast that massive floating neighborhood we just talked about with the origins of Cunard, the difference is night and day.
It's almost hard to believe it's the same industry.
Right. Samuel Cunard basically kicked off this entire global industry back in 1840 when he secured a British government mail contract.
And the technology back then was quite a bit different.
Just a little bit. The very first ship he used was the RMS Britannia. It wasn't a mega ship. It was a wooden paddle steamer.
A paddle steamer?
Yeah. It departed Liverpool on July 4th, 1840, and it took over 12 days and 10 hours just to reach Halifax before pushing on to Boston.
Think about the physical and psychological reality of that 1840 experience. You were on a wooden vessel powered by coal and steam paddles.
It must have been so loud and rough.
You felt every single swell of the Atlantic. You smelt the salt. You felt the cold. You were acutely, constantly aware of the ocean every single second of those 12 days.
Whereas on the Oasis-7, the whole point is to make you forget you are on the water.
Precisely. And the Queen Mary, too, bridges the gap between those two extremes, but it leans heavily into its heritage. It is crucial to note that the QM2 is not a cruise ship. It is a true ocean liner.
Wait, what is the actual structural difference? I always thought those terms were basically interchangeable.
A lot of people do, but it comes down to the hull. Modern cruise ships like the Oasis-class have relatively flat, wide bottoms. They are designed to maximize internal volume and flow gently into shallow, beautiful Caribbean ports. If you put them in the rough winter swells of the North Atlantic, they would bob around like a cork and everyone would be miserable.
It would sound awful.
It would be. But an ocean liner like the QM2 has a much deeper, sharply V-shaped hull constructed with thicker steel. It is designed to aggressively cut through heavy ocean swells at high speeds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, its physical purpose is to conquer the crossing.
Which changes the entire vibe of the trip.
Absolutely. Liz Fetz, a senior vice president at Cunard, notes that transatlantic travel is the foundation of Cunard's rich heritage.
Which is a huge selling point for them.
It is. This raises an important question, though. What does the modern traveler actually crave? Do they want the hyperstimulation and the inward-facing balconies of a 2028 megaship? Or is there a growing desire for the 186-year-old luxury of simply disconnecting, staring at the horizon, and taking 8 days to cross an ocean?
It's the ultimate digital detox.
Yeah.
Just you. Thousands of miles of deep blue water and a lot of historical elegance.
And the timing of this specific 450th crossing in November 2026 is brilliant.
It really is. Cunard is actively tying this arrival into the United States' 250th anniversary celebrations, the semi-quincentennial.
I can barely even say that word.
I practiced it. The QM2 is actually scheduled to participate in an event called Sailforth 250 in New York Harbor.
The visual of that arrival is going to be spectacular. The event is assembling an international flotilla of tall ships and naval vessels.
Oh, that's going to be gorgeous.
Right. So imagine standing on the deck of the QM2 after an 8-day transatlantic crossing and sailing into New York Harbor surrounded by a fleet of wind-powered tall ships. It's a direct, visceral connection back to 1840 and the RMS Britannia.
And a stark, almost unimaginable contrast to sitting in gridlock traffic on Port Boulevard in Miami trying to avoid a soccer festival.
Exactly. It's two completely different worlds.
And that perfectly captures the incredible fractured span of modern sea travel we've explored in this deep dive. We started with the sheer modern-day logistical stress of trying to board a ship alongside 63,000 other people.
Which is just a staggering logistical reality.
Then we looked under the hood at the massive block assembly engineering of a 236,900-ton floating city being built in France.
The ultimate theme park at sea.
And finally, we looked at the nostalgic, deeply purposeful elegance of a classic Atlantic crossing on a heavy-hulled ocean liner.
It really covers the entire spectrum.
So what does this all mean? It means that the maritime industry is pushing in two radically different directions at once. They're building faster, more chaotic, gravity-defying entertainment districts for the masses, while simultaneously selling the quiet, slow, historical romance of the sea to those looking to escape the noise.
It is a fascinating divergence, and it leaves you with a really profound dynamic to consider for the future.
I think definitely.
As these megaships continue to push past that 236,000-ton mark, the coastal cities that host them are reaching their absolute breaking points. The bridges, the parking, the infrastructure simply cannot handle it.
They just physically can't.
Right. So if the ships keep getting bigger and the ports can't expand to hold them, will we eventually see a future where these massive floating cities simply never dock at all?
Wait, Really? To
Yeah.
stay out there?
Think about it. Could the next evolution of the cruise industry be sovereign, independent floating states that stay at sea indefinitely while passengers are ferried back and forth on smaller, high-speed shuttle boats?
Now, that is a wild thought. The ship officially becoming its own country. I mean, it would solve the traffic jam in Miami, I guess.
It would certainly change the definition of an ocean vacation.
We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep exploring, keep questioning how we engineer the world around us, and we will catch you next time as we continue to explore the ever-changing horizon of maritime travel.